Today, we're diving into one of the most transformative forces in real estate right now, artificial intelligence, and how it's reshaping the way investors analyze markets, find deals, and manage portfolios. I'm Kathy Fettke, and welcome to The Real Wealth Show.
You're listening to The Real Wealth Show with Kathy Fettke, the real estate investor's resource.
Joining me is Holden Page, SVP of Technology at HousingWire. He's been closely tracking AI's growing role in real estate. We'll explore how HousingWire is using AI in its own work and what tools, strategies, and best practices investors can adopt to help your real estate business. Also, I just want to mention that during the show, Holden says the word agent many times during the show, and he's not referring to a real estate agent, but rather an AI agent like ChatGPT or Notebook LM. Holden, welcome to The Real Wealth Show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with what your role is at HousingWire.
Yeah, so my role at HousingWire is pretty encompassing. My title is SVP of Technology, and basically I'm the guy behind what you see on the screen for HousingWire, our media publication, Real Trends, our agent and brokerage rankings, Altos, which collects market data every week on every home that is listed or sold in the nation. And then just general, what does the future hold? And I think that segues good into our topic, which is artificial intelligence and how we're bringing that all into our lives. Excited to go forward with that.
Yeah, so you're the guy every company needs and wants, but often doesn't get.
Please tell Clayton that.
Oh, boy. All right. My husband is that guy just by default. He doesn't have a choice. Well, let's just at a high level. Obviously, AI is taking off and growing so fast. I think, what is it, advancing like every 3 months, doubling its power or something like that? I may be getting these totally wrong.
Yeah, so I mean, I like to zero to the frame of funding around these companies. So venture capital back. We went from ChatGPT being valued just a few years ago and the tens of billions to the hundreds of billions to now a $500 billion private company. I mean, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
They're also the fastest growing company. I think what keeps Mark Zuckerberg up at night is seeing how fast users are growing on ChatGPT. Their first billion users happening, don't quote me on this, within a year versus, Facebook taking 4 years to get to that same. From a technology and product lens, that's how I think about things, and the rate of user adoption, venture capital funding, and then direct user revenue that these AI companies are getting just through ChatGPT alone is of huge substance. And of course, GPT-5 just got released, and I think another signal of just how fast this is changing is also how quickly people are pushing back on how these models change and what they do to their workflows. And it's almost impacting everyone every day. Whereas, if I looked at 8 years ago and Facebook made a tweak to their algorithm for what you saw in the newsfeed, I didn't see, my parents complaining about that. It was people like me complaining about that. So, yeah.
Right. It's almost like just a gold rush. It's a whole new world.
hmm
I heard something about the AI companies are recruiting talent and paying as much as $100 million. And I think I even heard $1 billion for
Yes.
certain. Did you hear that as well?
Yes, I have. Yeah. No, it is pretty wild what's being there. And I mean, right, they're all making a bet that, hey, if we spend a, couple billion here or there on a few group of people, the ROI on that is going to be exponential. Why not spend that much money on one person who can create the next generation model, and that can help them at least keep their headcount steady as to where it is. I don't like to be doom and gloom about, is AI going to replace jobs and whatnot. At the end of the day, a lot of this stuff is just predicting the next word more accurately than before. But it turns out that one single concept and making it a lot better is unlocking all of this value, and is quite hard to do on percentage improved basis over time. So I'm sure Zuckerberg and all these they're all trying to find their edge to the super intelligence. Whether or not that's a thing, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a useful marketing narrative though.
So bottom line, nerds will rule the world. That's the world we're in. Yeah. Maybe
Yes,
someday.
yeah.
Coming back to real estate, because that's what our
Mhm.
listeners want to hear. How do you see AI impacting real estate in general? It's a big question, but what do you see?
Oh gosh, my background's not in real estate. It is in technology and AI. So I think I bring this angle into it, which is that I think real estate agents and myself all kind of share a similar mindset in that we have an owner's mindset. We want to do more with less. We want to move faster. We want to deliver better experiences for our clients. And AI does all of that. It can, integrate into your day to day very efficiently and very effectively and make things that felt, quite honestly, very hard and burdensome
Hmm.
feel accelerating and exciting. And
I hope so. I hope so.
yeah,
I just got Chat GPT-5 and I said I need a landing page and let's see if you could do it. And it's like, yeah, I got you. What do you want in it? And we went down this whole thread and it's been a week. I'm sure I used the wrong prompt. I did something wrong, but it hasn't worked out so far for me.
do you want to know a secret, Kathy?
I
All right.
do. I
Yes.
do.
Okay. So
Me and everybody listening want to hear it.
here's the fact. These people that are at OpenAI, Anthropic, sure, the engineers there, they're thinking about the prompts. They're working on the prompts. Sam Altman, he's the guy and whatnot. They barely know what prompts they need to put in to get the best out.
Okay. Thank
You
you
know,
for making me
they're
feel better.
sincerely, they're the standard, they're still hiring marketers who are just in about 2020 learned about AI in the same way that we are. So the only edge that they have is that they're in the room and the competitive forces of the market are forcing that knowledge to get out of the room as fast as possible. So I promise you, me, your agents are not as far behind as we think. And like no one's doing a bad job. You're doing a bad job if you're not trying it.
You gotta
That's
be
when
in
you're doing a
there
bad job.
giving it a
Yeah.
go and not using it like Google, although that's
Yeah.
a great way to start, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Just ask a
Mhm.
question, see what happens. Okay. Alright, so in terms of, let's just say then, how are you using it at HousingWire to improve your data or make your jobs easier there?
Yeah, so I kind of bucket this into three separate buckets. So we have our internal processes. So how am I enabling the organization to use these AI tools? And the first things first is like let's be honest and say that we're using them. There is a concept called shadow GPT that I like to compare to the bring your own device movement when iPhones took over the world, and we once upon a time all used Blackberries issued by our corporations. Just acknowledge reality and start creating frameworks for teams to feel comfortable sharing what they're doing, what prompts are working for them, what new tools they're using, right? Because we're not limited to ChatGPT. One really great AI tool, Fixer AI, writes out emails for you as they come into your inbox. And real estate agents, I think a lot of it's kind of like any sales. The faster that you can respond to that person, the more likely that you're going to get a response back and close that deal. And so I think making a culture of transparency and trust is actually the biggest thing that I'm doing. And then honesty about like, hey, yeah, this is we made this output using AI. And by the way, this is how you can do it. The
Hmm.
next thing is just like our technology team. We do have engineers and coders and whatnot. And how are we helping them write code to deliver to our customers faster features that will help them move forward? So Altos provides for real estate agents market reports every week. How can we tell them instead of them reading a chart, what the market's actually doing and translating that to a script that they can use for that morning coffee chat that they need to get through. And then there's my own personal work life, which maybe will relate to your audience the most, which is I have a 1-year-old. I'm I'm tired more often than not.
That's
um,
just the beginning.
yeah. And what I do with that is I do basic things such as running through hey, this is a response I'm thinking when I'm giving a critique to an employee or a tricky negotiation with a client. Challenge me. Am I setting the right tone here? Am I using the right words? Is there an angle that I didn't think about that will help this conversation go more smoothly? And in my personal life, I've found ChatGPT to be best used for pushing your assumptions and in a safe place for that.
Hmm.
I think that like it's hard for to go to either your boss or your clients or your employees and ask for direct feedback. There's always these kind of emotional biases that may color what you actually get in response, and ChatGPT doesn't have those. And then the more practical way is I set up a lot of projects within ChatGPT. So right now we have a 6-month roadmap, and each of those have a project where I'm doing something which is called context engineering. I'm basically bringing all the context, the data, the conversations, the people, and I'm putting that into one project. And then I'm having a conversation over time through that. So it automatically knows the context. And I'm not having to remind it every time, like, oh, yeah, we're working on X, Y, and Z. It's simplifying that next step. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the short answer, hopefully.
I love it. Yeah. The first thing you said was, getting your team comfortable with it.
Hmm.
We actually started an AI circle here at Real Wealth where
Hmm.
whatever employees who want to, participate for an hour and a half a week, learning, finding out what other people are doing, getting your job description into AI and spitting out like what you do so that you can create your systems and structures. If you go on vacation, it's there. People can see what you do, and to just be really comfortable with that. One way I used it recently that my husband showed me is actually it involves you guys at HousingWire. I love Logan Motashami. I follow him closely, and I had to go on stage, main stage of a big conference with thousands of people there. And the question was, how do you see the real estate outlook? He had just done his podcast. I was able to just drag that into Notebook LM, and I just said, "Give me the top 5 points that Logan made."
Hmm.
I didn't have time to listen to the whole podcast, and
Hmm.
it spit it out. I was like, "Yes." It was just awesome. So I think there's going to be a lot of ways that people learn that they can, like you said, make life easier. It doesn't mean you're
Can
gonna
I
lose your job. You're just gonna do it better.
Okay, yeah, and I want to touch on something there, which is like the joy you had and being able to be successful. Like that's it, right? Like I think there's like as we're moving forward, we do more content creation and we try to close more deals and talk to more clients. Like I think these tools provide a safe space for getting us to confidence faster,
Mhm.
and like that is so powerful for our psyche and our ability and even my ability to hop on this podcast and have a productive conversation. And once again, I take a more optimistic outlook on these things, but it's really awesome to hear that like you're excited and you feel well prepared and confident going into a new situation. And so
Yeah.
speed to comfortability in a new environment is a metric I'm making up right now, but I would like for someone to quantify for me one day.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So for real estate investors, oftentimes all the time, we want to know how markets are doing, job growth, population growth. Are we seeing wage growth, crime growth? These are things that I think we're going to be able to search more easily with AI.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips on how investors can get access to more data more quickly?
Yes, that's a really interesting question. So, and I'll attempt to do this through a workflow and a concept called context engineering. So, the first thing I would do when you're talking about these data sources is ask ChatGPT to do a deep research on what are the most accessible data sources available, and I would actually say, when possible, find government data sources. Those are not behind proprietary tool sets. They operate typically on a delay, but you can get those the data points from them. Our taxpayer dollars do go for this to go out there. The
Mhm.
problem has always been discoverability. The federal government is large. They have a lot of agencies. Therefore, there's a lot of different web pages with that data. Once you've gathered that, download those files, and AI does not preclude you from not having to take a moment to understand what you're looking at. It can help accelerate understanding what you're looking at and adding context around it, but you still need to be somewhat familiar with what you've downloaded. And then
Mhm.
of course there's tools like I'll just be candid here, Altos every week for real estate agents is updating market data on every house by zip code in the market. There's nothing stopping an agent from taking their market report and putting that into ChatGPT as part of a concept I call context engineering. And what context engineering means is think of it as your intern. You would never ever go to an intern and be like, hey, well, maybe you would. I don't know. It depends on how much confidence you have in this intern, but you would likely provide them with the resources that they need to start understanding and grappling with the output that you expect them to have to make your job easier. So organization into putting those data into folders or even just one document. This is where you find, the wage growth data. This is where you find the 10-year treasury yield data. This is where you find for the Orlando market the number of homes sold. And being able to do that and getting more specific as you do that is the concept of context engineering. And then actually telling it, what do you expect out of it? So, an example I'll give here is that one of the things I press my team is to tell really good stories to the organization. And I'm going to train an agent on what I actually mean by saying what is a really good story. And you can tell your Chat GPT agent, this is what I expect because these are my goals and these are the people who I talk to. So if I break this down into two parts, one, you want to collect the data by finding it using deep research. Just let that do that work. Walk away from your computer for 20 minutes, live and let live. Download all that and add it into a ChatGPT project or Anthropic has similar things as well. And then after that, define to the agent how you expect it to respond, what specifically your goals are. So, if it's getting more doors, if it's making sure that every meeting that you have, that you sound like the smartest person that they've ever talked to about real estate, and you like a tone that's authoritative but fun, you need to let it know that so that it's automatically outputting that every time. Then the other thing I would say is that the AI that is closest to you is the best AI to use. So I use a browser that has a chat bar right next to it that
Mm.
can read what is on your screen. So imagine you're looking
Wow.
at one of the properties that you want to sell, or you have multiple properties across 10 different tabs, and you want to say, and you provide the context on, this is what I'm looking for in a property. This is what I identify as a good investment opportunity. Look at all these tabs, and based off these attributes, tell me which one is the best. Right within your browser window. And that browser is called Dia. I'm sure you can put it in show notes. But that doesn't mean I'm always going to ChatGPT. Whatever AI button is closest to you
DIA?
is, yeah.
And that's the one that goes next to your screen?
Yeah, so it's called,
Amazing.
it's a DIA, Dia from the browser company. And if you
Okay.
want some insider knowledge, ChatGPT is looking at buying it. So,
Okay. Ooh.
but yeah, that's how I'd encourage people to do it. Like, make it frictionless for yourself as well.
I think everyone needs a personal assistant. Not everyone can afford one, and sometimes it's hard to find the right one. How can AI act as your assistant and just help you with tasks and again just make life easier? easier for you? I mean, you just mentioned one great one. I can't wait to look that up, Dia. But what else?
Yeah. So there are very specific toolings within probably all the common apps that you're using. So, if you're using Google, probably pay for the Gemini upgrade for your workspace so that it auto summarizes your documents. When you're doing market research for the markets that you want to participate in, don't be afraid to Google around and find the tool that says that it can do that particularly well with AI. You can actually use, and I think we're in a state in the market now where if a vendor is saying, hey, we've added AI to this tool to help you do that, the technology that OpenAI and others provide to developers like me is at a place that they can kind of fulfill their promises. That which is crazy. We moved from a world 2 years ago where it's like, well, maybe, to like a world of, oh yes, it actually can. And then I think that at a deeper level, delegation, I think, is an emotional exercise. You're placing trust in someone and
Mm-hmm.
something,
Yeah.
and you can test your emotional resilience with ChatGPT by having a conversation with it and attempting to delegate and seeing how that AI model works through the task you set before it. So, for example, if we're going to say, I want you, ChatGPT, to log into this property assessment tool and extract the pricing and the market performance of their ChatGPT, what it actually does is it loads a computer similar to like how an intern would load a computer, and you can see how the mouse will scroll, click, get through, and it'll explain to you how it failed to get to that point. And that
Wow.
is really valuable for information for you
Mm-hmm.
because one, like you can learn like, well, maybe it's just worth me doing it, right? Like maybe it's not worth the nuance, or actually I need to hire somebody who's not an intern and is maybe a little higher level, so I know that they do this reliably every time. But it's the simplest way, I think, to build empathy for whatever potential employee you have to understand, like, oh, wow, it's a lot more button clicks than I anticipated, or the way that I
Yeah.
gave these instructions maybe weren't as clear, and
Yes.
alleviates the frustration that as a boss, like sometimes I do get frustrated. I'm like, why didn't they understand this? I
Yeah.
found looking at ChatGPT and these other agents navigating it, I'm like, oh, I actually wasn't that clear with my
I'm so glad
instructions.
you said that. I'm learning that too with this landing page. I'm
Mhm.
so frustrated because chat, I'm like, I want to do a landing page. Like, great. And how many times do you interview someone for a job or you hire someone and they're like, yeah, totally got this. If you hire someone on Upwork and then you end up with something that is just not at all what you want.
Mhm.
So with a bot, all I can do is look at myself because I know other people are getting what they want. I know
Mhm.
that somebody's using AI and getting a landing page. It's not them, it's me. And that's been super helpful to be super clear about what I want and explain it well because it's a robot. Like, if you get it wrong, it's just taking what you're saying, and you have to be really listening to what you're saying, and you have to know what you want, but a lot of people don't know what they
Yeah.
want, and that's where it could get complicated, right?
And like pro tip, you can tell, this is the awesome part of all these AI tools. You can tell the AI tool, I don't know if I'm doing a good enough job of explaining this to you.
Mm,
Tell me what I'm missing. And like that's powerful. I
okay.
don't know how many direct reports you can go to as boss, like, and be like, I actually don't know how to instruct you on this. Um
Right.
you tell
Yeah,
me. Like it, but
yeah.
it does allow that
That's great. I'm
ability.
gonna try
And it,
that right after
yeah,
this show.
cool.
What am I doing wrong here?
And then I'll add like one other flavor here, which is like it's okay to get to 90% of what you wanted, and then having it work out like, okay, I tell ChatGPT this, all right. All right, I don't think you can go any further with me. This is the 90%. Write out the remaining 10% of what I should tell an Upworker to refine here and
I
list
love
out
that.
those instructions, and then I negotiate over the instructions. So that's how I found myself moving past the frustration of the limitations of ChatGPT when it comes to building experiences to like, all right, we're ready actually for someone to actually do this work and apply the nuance I know needs to get here that AI models as of yet aren't going to get us
I love that.
to.
Oh, good stuff. All right. So there are so many AI platforms now. They're popping up everywhere. I just learned a few new ones here today. Are they different? Do they have different strengths? I know my husband is just crazy about Claude specifically for business planning and
Mm,
consulting. And he's using Notebook LM, like I said, to put YouTube videos he wants to watch but doesn't have time, and it'll just spit out the notes for him. And
hmm
yeah, I mean, are they different? Are they the same? Are they working from the same base? I do have no idea.
It's a very good question. And if there's somebody much more technical listening to me, know that I have exceptions abounded to what I'm about to say. So
Okay.
the first thing I'll say, and I promise this will wrap around, is there are so many new tools, and I'm overwhelmed by them, and I spend my day doing this. I have a rule. I use the one tool for 90 days, no matter what next shiny tool is coming out. There are four different browsers like Dia that came out after I adopted Dia, and they
Okay.
technically do things more powerful than Dia. At the end of the day, though, like we have to do our jobs, and it's unlikely
Yeah.
that like you've found the max capacity of the thing that you're using anyways. And so
Okay.
see it as when trust yourself that if you're using AI daily and you're using a tool that you like, you will find the next tool at the right time that upgrades your workflows
Hmm.
and gives you more value. As to your husband's point about he loves Claude for business writing and people like ChatGPT for CSPs and people like certain versions of Claude for coding. The way that I would split this up into two parts. There's a model layer, and a model layer is what we're talking about right now when we say ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini, and DeepSeek is kind of the ones that come to top of mind. Now, technically, any application developer, and we do this ourselves internally, can just pick and choose those models. And the way that I, as a technologist, pick and choose a model is that I keep up with a general sense of this model is typically better for coding. So if we're going to let people do some sort of scripting in our platforms or whatever, we're probably going to pick that model and apply it to that use case or that query. But if somebody is wanting to write a blog post or social media post, we can actually dynamically say, actually, we're going to use the Chat GPT model for that. So what you're experiencing from an application level is you're trusting your platform to actually to pick and choose the right models in the background that best serve your query. And people like me on product teams are actually always changing those weights. So there is it's sort of like you use Windows, you can technically do everything that you can do on a Mac with the Windows, but the way that you get there, the flows in it, the responses you get may fit to you more individually and how you like to work. And certain patterns and expectations are maybe more adaptable to specific use cases. So I would say the models are the same in many cases, but the application of those models and how individual humans working on these products that you and I use putting out to market, the humans are actually judging like how should they be applied to their best use case? What's going to get them the most value, while also taking into consideration, the cost to the organization. So I would say all of them are far more unique than you think, while understanding that they're using the base model that we have not seen the use cases of these models be pushed to their limits yet. So it's quite possible that somebody, four companies using GPT have four very different results for a real estate application. and one of them blows everyone else out of the water because they found a way to leverage ChatGPT to the maximum. So yeah, I would say at this point in time, the application of these GPTs are or these AI models are very different, and we shouldn't see them as the same at this point in time.
Okay, good stuff. Well, we are out of time, but obviously we're going to have you back because there's so many things I still need to ask. And by the time we have you back, it'll be a whole different conversation.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for having me.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me here on The Real Wealth Show. If you are interested in real estate and in our upcoming multifamily fund that we're launching in just 1 week, go to realwealthshow.com. You'll see on one of the tabs it says syndications, and you'll get all the information there. You do need to be accredited. And when you go to that syndication page, it will explain what that means. I'm Kathy Fettke. Thanks for joining me here on The Real Wealth Show. We will see you soon.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell any securities or to make or consider any investment or course of action. For more information, go to realwealthshow.com.